All right, get that man some booze. Okay, I love my job. I'm the executive director at Thrive Hood River. We are the land use watchdog group of the Hood River Valley. And I love my job because it is very personal to me. I arrived in Oregon in 2013 when I was 16 years old. I was here for about a week in August of 2013, and I decided that I would never go back home. I left everything behind. It was a very hard decision. It was the most impulsive decision of my life. It is the best decision I have ever made. I don't need to explain to you how this place impressed on my mind. The mind of a kid that had grown up in a gray urban space, perpetually in drought. My grandfather was also a farmer. He did not have the Mount Hood irrigation system. He had deep, deep wells, and he watered his carrots drip by drip by drip. So I was awestruck by this place and its wondrous nature. I had been to places before with wondrous nature, but Hood River had something a little different. Unlike Vail, unlike Aspen, unlike Davos, Hood River had a real community in it. It had orchardists, it had musicians, it had poets, it had teachers, it had kids that I met at the high school. This was no resort town. This was the most beautiful place in the world with a beautiful community attached to it. That was rare. Now, what I did not realize is that what I had really fallen in love with was the way Oregonians are taking care of their land, and I had fallen in love with your land use system. It took me many years to realize that. So that's why I'm here today. That's why I love my job. Now, why Thrive? Why Hood River? Why do I think we have the right to give you some insight as to what the land use system will be in the 21st century? Hood River and Thrive are small entities in a very strict nominal sense. But Hood River is actually a very big, big place, a very significant place in a larger sense. Not because we have the best soil in the state, as Mike said, not because we produce 30 or 40% of the entire nation's pears, depending on the season, and definitely not because we're the windsurfing capital of the world. That's coming from a windsurfer. No, this landscape is the emblem of Oregon. You know it. This landscape is iconic of Oregon values, of how we treat our land and the worth of our land use system. I cannot give myself credit for this, but I can credit the people that came before me at Thrive, like Mike McCarthy, like John Mills, like Polly Wood. If it wasn't for these folks, if it wasn't for Thrive, this would not be lavender fields. This would be golf courses, 500 resort condos, etc., etc. So the work is real. We watch over this land and we love this job. And we'll be doing it for a long time to make sure that the city can grow, protect its farms, and not relegate its residents to some kind of second-class citizenship where they serve resort communities. But times are changing, as Governor Kitzhaber has very well expressed. We have new challenges, we have new technology, we have new threats. I believe that Hood River will be the test case for the long-term viability of our land use system. We are ground zero, folks. We are at the confluence of all the things that historically have chipped away at our land use system. Our housing stock is in demand like no other place in Oregon. It has become so in the last couple of years. In the last decade, we have become the most unaffordable place to own a home in Oregon or to rent one. Our farmland has the best soil, perhaps, you know that, Mike, but it's also the most scenic soil in the state. So it's a place where people want a second, a third home, or a hobby farm. And at this particular time, it just so happens that my generation knows nothing about the land use system. And let's be frank, to my generation, there is no land use. There is only a housing crisis, there's climate change, there's food systems. That's it. So the viability of our land use system will depend on us being able to show, prove, and educate people as to how it sits at the intersection. It is actually the system that sits at the intersection of all these things. It is the system that allows us to provide systemic solutions to all these problems. Okay, Our organization has been very aware of this. And seeing these growing threats, my board has taken huge steps the last couple of years to expand the organization, to professionalize it, and we do big, big things. We talked about the housing affordability crisis. 1 week ago, Thrive Hood River won a big case at the Oregon Court of Appeals that affirmed the state's most ambitious and visionary housing code in the whole state. We are still fighting resort development, expanding into forest land. We have the legal chops for it, thanks to our attorney, Jesse Buss, and our well-trained staff and our well-trained board. We monitor every single land use application on farmland at Thrive Hood River. Not one slips past by us, not one. And we're also a kind of think tank. You've been able to see it. We think. There's no dogma for us. We accept thought, we think about things, we come up with solutions, we help the city, we help the county come up with solutions. We're nimble, and we're gonna need some very nimble organizations with a lot of energy, a lot of creativity to solve these problems. We are that. But yes, this work is very costly. Thrive has won at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level. We design policy, we communicate it, we win court cases, we write appeals. And before I move to the Q&A, I do want to ask you to please support our organization. We're efficient, we have the time, we have the energy, we have the legal chops, we have the policy chops, but this is resource intensive, and we need dollars to make this work. So I would like to ask you to please raise your hand if we can count on your support today. We don't only want you to contribute, we really want you to be a part of our community. We want you to get to know us, we want to get to know you, we want to think with you. We're a fun crowd, we do outings, we do farm tours, we do hikes, we do events. I make paellas, God damn it if I have to, but we need your help to keep this thing going. So please, if you can help us today, before we move into the Q&A, find my staffer, my dear, indispensable colleague, Jackie, or myself, and put something in that envelope. And we'll see you again next year if Aubrey's so kind, or in 2 years, and if not, at Chris Beck's. Thank you very much. And my friend Robert Liberty is going to be closing this out before the Q&A.